Ina mana, ina waka, ina reo, ero rangatira mā, tina koutou, tina koutou, tina koutou katoa. Kia ora, hello. Wow, it really is crazy standing up here. I feel like I'm back in university or something. I also cannot sing. I'm just going to let you in on that now. This is my Madonna moment, and if it fails me, it's not like it's 2 a.m. where I don't really care. Please let me know. Today I want to talk to you about hiring at scale, but more about the Warehouse Group. But let me chat a little bit about me. I hate to talk about myself, but good to kind of know where I come from. Started my journey in life in retail, actually at one of the Warehouse stores, which is great because it kind of brings everything back to life and where I am now. But while I was studying psychology, criminology, interesting how that actually kind of works really well in what we do in our career right now. Went overseas, as many Kiwis and Aussies do, fell into the world of recruitment, again, as probably half the room did, and ended up at Robert Walters when I came back, in that good old GFC time, which, what was that now, you know? And have been at the Warehouse Group ever since. I've also realised that I shouldn't really put years on there, because I can't claim that I'm 27 anymore, but anyway, that's fine. Gosh. I'll just tell the kids that I'm that every year.
I lost my house.
So it'd be great to have a bit of a yell around the room. If you could put your hands up and let me know if you have conducted any bulk hiring. Awesome. Nice. What about any large restructures? Awesome. Perfect. So good level. Hopefully some of you can take some out of here, and some others that maybe haven't, if you end up doing some of that in your time, or can take some other bits and pieces from the presentation as well. So I thought I'd give you a bit of an understanding of who we are. So we're across that bridge, that little old other country called New Zealand. We are New Zealand's largest generalist retailer, 12,000 employees, plus about 3,000 that we hire over Christmas time. Christmas for us starts in about July, but we'll talk about that shortly. We have our support office based in Auckland, 6 distribution sites. Fun fact is our North Island distribution site is about the size of 21 football fields. So you definitely wear your Fitbit on one of those days to go out and track your steps. 98% of New Zealanders shop with us, so one of our 4 brands, and that's online or in store. We are about 3.4, just over billion sales in retail. Maybe for you guys it's not as big. For us in New Zealand that's pretty good. We're the 3rd major retailer to go carbon neutral and the 1st retailer to go agile globally in the store network, which is pretty cool. So we talked about bulk hiring. So I thought I'd start off by giving you a little bit of stats around the numbers of applications and hires that we do per year. This is great because obviously having been on Smartrecruiters for the last little while, I can give you correct information throughout the whole system. Before that, we had an ATS. We had 4 different ATSs for each of the brands. So when we brought it all in, it was just amazing. So this is our numbers. So we hit sort of around, average maybe 120,000 applications a year, and we hire roughly 10,000 a year, give or take. That includes our internal hiring because internal mobility takes just as much time from teams as it does from external hiring. So I'll chat a bit about that as well. Obviously, dear old 2022, that year of craziness and beginning of this year, right? You can see the drop in numbers of applications is pretty prevalent, but we still had to hire the same number of people. Many of us had been through quite a few little journeys in there, so hopefully I can give you some details around that one as well. Doing that wouldn't be possible without these amazing people. This is my team. They're just fantastic. We have lots of fun, as you can see. But we're an insanely lean team, at least I think we are. So 11 to 12 people within the talent acquisition team. That includes 3.5, 4 people that support our support network, support office, which is end-to-end recruitment, and then the rest on the volume side. So 4 on volume, and at the moment we've got a temp within that space helping us as well. So Christmas hiring, 3,000 people with 4 recruiters. So yeah, pretty crazy. We couldn't do that if we didn't have good systems, processes in place. and a lot of stakeholder management. But definitely having systems that we can have in play, working through that has helped. So let me chat to you firstly about the peak hiring. So this is where we are if we look at our store network first. So since the 1st of August, for our Christmas side, we've had about 15,000 applications. Interestingly enough, for all store recruitment, so Christmas as well as our permanent, casuals, those side of things, 35,000 applications since the 1st of August. Good note is that compared to 12 months ago, it's feeling so much better out there. Well, at least in this kind of side of things. Maybe if you're looking for data scientists or solutions architects, maybe a different story. But, for us in here, it has meant that this year's been a little bit better for us. But again, more candidates to go through. Our recruitment process is pretty standard, but because we're so lean, we really do require the stores to do a lot of work themselves. So a lot of that self-care in that middle piece. So the team will work in the beginning part of the process, all the way through to skip the middle bit, and then it'll come back to us at the end. We used to let the stores go off and do their contracts. In New Zealand, there's a lot of employment law, as there is here as well, and it was the best thing for us to bring that back in about 5 years ago, and I'm really glad we did. In terms of actual systems, obviously Smartrecruiters, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of Smartrecruiters, so I will sit here and talk all day if I need to. I'm happy to chat with anybody. We've got Phenom at the moment as our careers site and CRM, so everything that we do goes through those processes. We then, for our stores side, don't actually have any integrations in there unless we're running store openings and doing bulk areas, but if we just keep it sort of to the general now, we do rely on a lot of coaching, training, all of those types of things that we can give our store managers. So we run a lot of virtual sessions, we run a lot of reporting, provide that details for them. When the contracts come back, we use DocuSign, which is fantastic. So they integrate straight with Smartrecruiters. When we used to do DocuSign just on its own without that integration, it was about 20 minutes for us to do that process for the contract because of all the bits and bobs that we have in there. And we used to have 128 different types of contracts, so a little bit complex. Smartrecruiters integration, 5 minutes max for us to do that. So straight away, a savings there that we've been able to actually take a headcount away, and when it came to restructure, when we had to lose one, it was actually okay. Because we managed to find those details within that part. It also gives us really good tracking, and it was also able to bring those contracts and the details once they're done in DocuSign straight back into Smartrecruiters for us to see. We also have built an AI bot, basically an automation bot rather than Gen AI, but we download all the documents out of DocuSign into our team files. And now we've just implemented Oracle 2.5 months ago. That's another story talking about systems implementation. Chat to anyone if you need. But again, the Smartrecruiters integration is something that we're working on at the moment, so that when you put an offer out, the contract comes back, we can move somebody into hired, and that flows straight into our HRIS system. We're busy working on a little bit of a payroll thing, Pay Global, let's not go there. But in terms of that process, again, fantastic for us. And this bot is now taking the documents straight, loading it straight into the system for our managers to see. That's taken a 0.8 FTE down to 14 seconds, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, we do have to do some manual work if, things aren't spelled correctly, or if there's 2 Bob Smiths and this, that kind of thing. But again, huge work that we've been able to take away and automate. This is distribution centre, so same process, except my team will be a lot more involved with the whole way through. And we also, for peak recruitment, add in a couple of extra tools, which are lifesavers for this space for us. So again, Smartrecruiters and Phenom. We use criteria. Alchemy at the beginning when we had them was for our video screening, and we also have assessment questions that we use. So instead of using when we used to do the assessment centres, we would also give them a piece of paper back in the day and go through all these questions, and then we would mark. Now we do this right in the beginning, so we can actually see if they'd pass that through there as well. Got the and or is because, kind of as Mike was just talking about, maybe it's not for everybody. So it's a way that we can go, if you don't want to, that's okay. We'll pick up the phone and still talk to you and still do those phone screening processes. What it has meant is that recruiting time gets spent across the areas for the managers and the candidates to be able to jump in and do this, because a lot of the time If you're talking distribution centre, you're not allowed your phones on the shop floor, the DC floor, with you. So you can't get hold of them during normal work hours. So it's been fantastic for us to use that tool and have a mix of that for everybody. We also work with the likes of the MSD, or Ministry of Social Development, to help find candidates through their side, which again, we will go and do some bulk interviewing days, and one day we met about 119 people through a 4-hour interview processes that we kind of did quick checks in there, but we will still then take them out to the distribution centre as well. Those assessment centres are critical. It's more about walking around, getting to see if they can follow us, what do they see about the roles and everything else. References, we use Referoo, which is fantastic. So we have a 92% completion rate with Referoo. Again, both Criteria and Referoo, super easy through the system and the integration, really easy to be able to put in there. 8-hour response time. Side note, when somebody sent me one online, I'm probably more like the 3-day mark. But for these guys, it's fantastic to be able to say 8-hour turnaround. 35% are actually done outside of business hours. So between those tools, we're actually able to really take our recruiting to be 24/7, really, rather than just those 8 hours and team needing to kind of work around it all. And of course, we've got our bot and processes in there as well. Talking about candidate attraction and sort of the different ways that we've found all these people. Again, maybe sometimes too many, but we always have the same number that come through every year. And a couple of different areas on there. So our career site, and Kylie talked a bit more about it, and I'll chat to you more later too, is awesome. We've got 52% of our source of hire comes straight from our career site. A lot of that is also from the social media campaigns that we run, which I'll show you on the next slide too. But using those social media campaigns, your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, whatever it might be that you use, having landing pages, because we have set landing pages and set URLs for people to come into, means we can really track the information and data and have a look through there. Job boards, obviously the usual paid job boards, as well as Indeed, LinkedIn, those types of things that we use as well. We haven't needed to this year, or we have for 1 month, but last year we definitely took campaign takeovers basically on Trade Me, and Seek do it as well, where we took over. Anybody else in retail? Sorry. We took over for 3 months, and we just slammed the pages, and that definitely helped us last year. We filled 98% of our roles last year in a really tough market, which was that was definitely part of it. And in stores, posters, we're hiring T-shirts as well for everybody to wear, so that as customers are working around, same as Mike, candidates are customers, customers are candidates. I think I say that about 10,000 times a year with our store managers, but we wanted them to know that we were hiring. And for us, we're youth employers, so it's not about necessarily the 15-year-old kind of walking around the shop floor. It's about mum and dad going, they need a job. So basically getting them to see us as their first employer of choice. We also had EDMs that we would send out. Again, if you talk about sort of that shopping trolley and those types of things on our career site when you can go in. There's also a way for us to look at leads, so people that have come in, started their application but not finished. And we would also send messages to go, hey, you've applied for that job but you haven't quite finished yet. And we would keep that going last year as well. That was also super critical for us to be able to do that. Quick question around social media. Probably put up the hand or chat to your neighbour. But first of all, who runs social media campaigns? Just a few handful. Cool. Giving that away. I'm assuming it's those types of platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Anyone do TikTok? Oh, only like 3. Interesting. You're gonna after this, I'll tell you. So let me give you a little bit of detail about our social media campaign. I realise I'm standing in the way of everybody. For us, as I mentioned, youth employers, so if you take a think about who our audience is, we ran a 10-week campaign, 6 weeks in our distribution centre, 4 weeks within our stores. Facebook is just a constant for us in that area. It really is. And it shows above, our click-through rates are always sort of above market. Last year, these numbers were actually a lot higher. Again, interesting around sort of what we were seeing because of the push that we had. TikTok last year was phenomenal, 8% click-through rate, because no one had really tried it. This year still continues to be at 1.33, still really good in terms of the market that was in there. We didn't do anything fancy. I had a budget of $18,000, that's it. That was for a company to be able to help support us. We went and took photos in store, made it fresh so that we could have our own faces in there and people could really see what it was. That was fun. That was me forcing my team to go out and find people in there, but they had a good time. Instagram, it's okay. We kind of stopped it halfway through, but you kind of want to be on there as well. A lot of our shoppers are on there. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff from a commercial side, so it was great to be able to see it. But over 1.3 million impressions over that time, 15,000 clicks, and our career site actually increased 21% as well. So not only was it sort of going out, it was bringing people to the site to be able to go on there. And it's also about a 3.5 minutes that they would spend on there, excluding the apply sites as well, which was fantastic. So if you don't yet, use it. Things I would consider, look, we're looking at things like NPS scores, which we don't do for everything. We do it in sort of small areas. So with our peak recruitment, we will do NPS scores through there. We've been chatting to the likes of SAFE here. I think that would be fantastic to be able to put something that could maybe move in different areas for our store network, having those types of processes in there. A lot of the things needs money, which at the moment, budget retailer, those types of things is a little bit tricky, but definitely things that we're considering. And I mentioned on one of the other slides was around digital billboards as well, and how we could really go out. We looked at it last year, but they just weren't quite in the right locations that we were looking at. Excitingly, we've got digital billboards coming into our own stores, so I can't wait to actually start to use that as well and get people to our site. I'm going to really run through sort of quickly as well, just a slight change of tack and talk to you a little bit about restructures. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because if there's anyone in the room that hasn't done a restructure recently, what business do you work for? Because I think most of us probably have, especially over the last sort of 3 to 4 years. But hopefully you can take some stuff out of here as well. But also because it's not just about our external hiring. As I mentioned, our numbers, internal hiring and that internal mobility is super critical, especially at the moment when you're wanting to keep people on board. But this is an interesting one. So if we think back in beginning of 2022, it was actually at the end of 2019, we were having, HR lead team kind of secret discussions about what was going to come up in the next year. 2 major restructures were sort of coming in place. One was putting this agile way of working in our whole support office, and it affected 1,200 people. And the other one was changing our whole labour operating model for our Reds stores, so our warehouse brand, affecting about 5,000 permanent employees at that point, and that was redoing a whole load of rosters. I'm really glad it happened in that order, because what I'll talk to you about now around the store support office, we could then move across into the other way. So we were looking at that and going, what's our user story? What do we actually want to do? So we had the user story as a TWG team member, I want to know where my skills and competencies fit in the new structure so that I can make the right career decisions and get excited about working for TWG again. I say get excited about working for us again. We disestablished everyone. If no one wanted to come back, we would have been screwed. So we needed to make sure that we could communicate, educate, and excite people to come back in it. We had started Five chats, all of these types of things. We had this 4-day career stand thing all set up and pretty much ready for everybody to do, to share where people are going to go. That happened. Then that was pretty much what all of us would have been thinking, right? Like, what what do we do now? Like, we've just disestablished everybody. Now, not only are you feeling very insecure, we're now throwing this other world of insecurity to you. And there went all our thoughts and plans about what we were going to do. So instead, we went, okay, we're going to go digital. And we built a 35-page digital career site on our internal career site. So we've got an external career site and an internal career site. And super easy. Same with the attract side for Smartrecruiters. Super excited to see how that's going to work, where you can go in and just build it like this. You can go in and change your content like this. We're still busy using our internal site at the moment to learn about internal roles for our different brands and keep wanting to build that as well. What it looked like, we had videos so we could teach people around what Agile was. What is this thing? What are these structures? What does a chapter area lead mean? What the timeframes were, we could keep people up to date in there. We could talk to them about the different parts of the process. So these are some of the examples that they could go and click into. They could then have a look here around where are the actual different parts of the business, and underneath, what's my current role and where am I going to go to, so that they could see and visualize and actually see themselves now living in these new areas. And of course, we wanted to give as much support as possible, so throwing a whole load of information in there. We couldn't have done these types of numbers without a good system. So for Smartrecruiters, we had 781 vacancies, which we built bespoke workflows for every single area. You could have drop-downs, all of that. 1,300 applications. We pulled reporting, because there's great reporting in the background that we could filter on those screening questions and really be able to utilize that with our managers. 648 interviews. I think 550 or something was organized in 3 days. It was chaos. And then we could pull in the calibration sessions with our executive and with our finance teams to make sure that we weren't just hiring because we like you, we were hiring because actually you had that bell curve of experience across it. We could also then look at the scoring that you have in Smartrecruiters, the actual scoring processes, which are great, especially with the biases and being able to see what everyone else uses as well. And we also did a lot of outplacement support, building a lot of those areas. So building pages on the careers site that we sort of built through there, running one-to-one sessions. We also built a big, massive pack that we could send out. People could read areas that worked. And this was all in a very short period of time, again, with this little thing called COVID that had just sort of hit us. So you're probably thinking, Kim, you needed a bit of that, right? Yeah, 3 seconds worth, because the roller coaster continued, as I mentioned. But there were some awesome moments, because at least what we had been through, we could actually move in and use it for our next area that we were looking at. So we really took a lot of those learnings. So a lot of information that I've just thrown at you on 2 quite sort of different things to think about, but a couple of key takeaways. Definitely, Kylie spoke about it before, have a good career site, one that you can change manually, that you don't have to sit there and email somebody in another country that 3 weeks later goes, oh, what do you mean by this? Like, sorry, there's probably a lot of you like that in the audience, but have one that you can change, that you can fix. Put your brand ambassadors on there. Let them tell the story. So since the 1st of January, it was actually a little bit before this, but I'm using this year's data, 52%, like I say, of our hires come from there. We had an increase of 44% apply clicks coming through, so over 2.1 million page visits as well. And the average time on there is still sitting at around that 3-minute mark, and that excludes the apply, which is awesome. Use your ATS and your systems well. If budgets are tight, use them in areas that really you will be able to get the best of. Use them for your boards when you need to do different things in there, so that you can embrace it, bring it in, and use it in the right way. Your return on investment will be there, I promise you. Use your analytics. Time to hire. I hate that stat, don't you? It's great. Look, we need it, but use other information. Look at the data. Look at where they're coming from. Look at who needs more support. Take that information and deep dive. Smartrecruiters, literally, you can press a button and I can tell you exactly who's doing well or not in what region of the business. It's hugely important for us and what we can use, as well as the career sites insights that we were talking about before. Have a plan. Don't feel afraid to pivot. We all have over the last 3 years. And from an internal perspective, invest in outplacement. If you can keep people engaged and working with you all the way through, they will come back, or they'll recommend somebody else to come and work with you as well. Thank you. Ngā mihi.